Did everyone get enough pizza?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Delicious friends.
So good.
So, my name is Anna Baker.
I'm Brandon Johnson. We're two of the organizers. In addition, you've got Mr. Randall Meeker back there with the headphones on and now with the headphones off. He's helping manage the live stream here. He's also, of course, an organizer with us. Robert Toome, our fourth organizer, is out of town tonight, so he can't be here. But I know there are some Reach Localers in the audience. So,
where are the Reach Localers?
Maybe, possibly. No?
Anybody?
Well, we got one speaking, so there you go. Former Reach Localers, perhaps. So that's cool. I think we'll start off by thanking our sponsors, if that's cool. So first off is ICF Olson, our host tonight. You might have met Sean from ICF Olson. He let us in. Just super cool. More on that in a minute. But Olson is an advertising agency that has deep roots in this town. That's expanded and was acquired and is now has tendrils all around the world. They're super cool folks, and we really appreciate their support.
They've been our hosts for about 2 years now, and in addition to providing the space and the computers and everything else, they also provide our drinks and some of our snacks.
And they help us out with...
And moral support.
Yeah, and they help us out with stuff like the elevators don't work. Which is super helpful.
Was that Sean?
That was Sean right there. And
Hey,
if he comes back, he
Sean.
can give his own blurb.
Yeah. Do you want to talk? Hey. No pressure. We're just talking about Olson.
Hopefully good things, but
Yeah.
all I want to say is there someone in here? I want to make sure you guys don't get put on my lot. 037 BTW. And he means that from the heart, guys.
What kind of...
Overzealous security guard today wants to make sure that we have all our names and our license plates. So 037 BTW.
And where would they have had to park to be
In
like
this
this?
lot right up here.
Okay.
Randall Meeker's car.
No, with it. Yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for coming.
Okay.
Thanks, Sean. Can we get a round of applause for Sean?
Yeah.
He spent very literally.
Is a level of dedication.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, next up we have Track.js, and back from a long series of journeys. We have Todd
Yes.
Gardner,
You
round
bet.
of applause. Well, you're here with the sweatshirts.
I brought a
And
bag
your
of clothes that somebody gave me to hand out. That's what I did today.
So good.
Do you want to talk about Track.js?
Sure. I run a small company called Track.js, does JavaScript error monitoring. If you guys are writing JavaScript, it's probably going to break on you sometime. You can use a service like ours to help you know when it breaks and how to fix it. That's it.
Sorry, that is his slide. For those, well, if you haven't gotten into the internet yet, the username is Olsen, capital O, lowercase g, guest is the password. The restrooms are out the back across the hall from where you came in. And
One other thing to note about that is on account of the building security stuff we've been dealing with today, once you take the elevators down to the first floor, that is it. There is no getting back. We'll be up here and we can bring stuff to you if necessary, but then we won't be able to get back, and that might be kind of a problem. Yeah.
Slack us, but try. But
Yeah, but feel free to let us know if that causes any issues. Just want to make sure everyone's aware of it. Once you leave the building, that's the end. We hope
But you shouldn't leave until then. So
Yeah, so it's all good, right? All ready to go. We'd like to thank our next sponsor, which is Twilio. Twilio is a provider of communication APIs that enable really awesome web and native applications that do stuff like, for example, if you live in an apartment building like me, you can set up a Twilio number that will automatically buzz you in when calls from your phone number come through, so that you don't have to say, actually bring your phone with you every time you leave your apartment building. That's super cool. And it also allows you to do really awesome, more complex enterprisey stuff like build a call center that is totally based off of, that has no like special phone hardware whatsoever. It's all about the software. Twilio is super magnificent. If you haven't checked out your APIs, I'd recommend doing so. Sometimes we have folks from Twilio here, but as nobody's jumping up, I'd imagine that we don't have anyone from Twilio here today. One thing to note is that Twilio is having a conference this September called Signal. I've been to Signal a couple of years. It's super cool. They bring together a lot of folks who deal with communication API stuff. And unlike a lot of conferences that are run by companies that can be kind of salesy, I've found Twilio's conferences to not be very salesy at all, and often they bring together a lot of people who are just like building cool stuff and want to share it. It's really cool. You might want to check it out.
Cool. We did Track.js. Next, we have Front-End Masters, which is a local company that does training for, well, all sorts of things, really, JavaScript and other tech trainings. For those of you that are not familiar, they have an office right down the street, that way, behind us. And you can either log on and do an online monthly subscription and get access to all of their courses and content, which is a rich plethora of wonderful training. Or you can attend in free some of their day-long or sometimes 2-day-long trainings that they put on. For those of you that don't receive the listserv from our meetup.com list, Mark, who is the organizer of, he's the guy that started Front-End Masters, sent out an email today with some free trainings. So if you haven't actually checked that email, now's the time. It's great stuff. You should go do that.
It's really magnificent, and it's all free to folks who are willing to just show up to the RBC building downtown to take part.
So, for example, on August 1st, there's the Mastering Chrome Developer Tools training. On August 2nd, it's Data Visualization for React developers. August 3rd, Building Custom Data Visualizations. I can't say that word. That's a ton of people. And he has like 15 others.
Yeah.
And they're all free. So.
And they bring together people from out of town. Like, Mark literally flies people in for the purposes of doing these workshops. So, like, you know, you can learn Elm from, like, Richard Feldman, who's, like, one of the folks who's really big in the Elm community. I know they've had folks from the Vue community and Ember community come in to present as well. So it's, if you get a chance to see these people talk for free, it's pretty magnificent. Oh, I'd also like to thank our gold sponsors, C.H. Robinson and Team Doherty. C.H. Robinson is a provider of international logistics services It's based right here in Eden Prairie. I don't know that we have anyone from CHR here today, but CHR has been a supporter of this organization for about a year now, and they're super magnificent, and we thank them again for their support. We'd also like to thank Doherty, which is a consulting firm that's also based in, I believe, Bloomington, Minnesota, that has has a pretty significant presence here, and supports a lot of other organizations that are also pretty heavily invested in this town. Doherty's been gracious with their support as well.
All right, so round of applause for the
Yes.
Part of the reason I have you do a round of applause is because we are live streaming on YouTube and they might all be watching us. But really, we are streaming on YouTube, so if you ever can't come to this, we do live stream via Randall usually, and you can check it out after if you absolutely can't make it in real time. We are on Slack and Twitter, and we have a website, javascriptmn.com, all of which you should check out. For those of you that are new here, you haven't heard me say this yet, and you're going to. We are always looking for new people to speak at this meetup. So we have lightning talks, opportunities to speak, and include lightning talks, which are 10-minute kind of like topical, quick one-offs that you can share with the group. Anything that you're working on that you think is really cool and you want to share, you're more than welcome to come up here and give us a little brief on that. We also do longer kind of full-length talks, which are 45 minutes-ish to an hour, that are more in-depth, and if you're really looking to talk through the entire process of whatever you're doing, that's a great opportunity to do that. Both of these are good opportunities to get in front of a large community of your peers and colleagues. They're great opportunities to practice speaking in front of large groups and to practice speaking about your tech skills, which is something that, even if your tech skills are marvelous, they're going to be hard to market if you can't talk about them well. So, if you are interested, by all means reach out to us. I will extend that invitation one more time in a few minutes for lightning talks if anyone does want to speak for a few minutes tonight. So if that's you, start thinking.
Yes. So one thing that we'd also like to mention is that this event, this community has a code of conduct. By attending an event and participating in the online communities, you agree to follow the code of conduct, which is available on our website at the link on the screen. And the reason why we have this is because all of us organizers are committed to making sure that this is a place where people can be comfortable and like share new ideas and and get feedback about ideas and have really awesome productive discussions about JavaScript, this framework, and frameworks that work with JavaScript and the community. And if there's anything we can do to make that better, whether that's a conduct concern or just plain feedback on these events, you can feel free to let any of us know in person or more privately at the email address there, or on Slack. We're all on Slack too.
And obviously, if you did reach out online instead of in person, it'll be confidential.
Yep.
Everything stays with us.
Yep.
And if you have any questions about that, you can also feel free to come talk to us in general. We open up the space to announcements at this time. If anyone has anything they'd like to share with the community, jobs that they are offering, jobs that you are looking for, events, etc. I saw Sarah's hand in the back. Sarah Cook.
Hi guys, I'm Sarah Cook. I'm one of the organizers for Minneapolis Junior Devs. Some of you might be familiar with that. We host a monthly meetup at Prime Digital Academy on 4th and 4th, the north building of the Grand Exchange building. If you're interested, tickets for our next event will open at the end of the month. The topic is going to be presented by Tessa Creasel, and it's on continuous development, continuous
integration. Yeah.
Wow. The end of my day. But the Tuesday, we are the second Tuesday of the month, which means our August event is going to be Tuesday, August 14th. Again, you can find tickets on Eventbrite, which will open at the end of the month. And we also have a newly revamped website, mplsjrdevs.com. Check it out. We also have a Slack, and we're also on Twitter. So if you have any questions leading up to the event, you can reach out to us there. Cool.
Sweet.
Thanks.
Todd has an announcement.
I also have a meetup that I'd like to talk about. I have a meetup called Tech Beers, which is a lot like this, except we're not going to have a talk, and we're not going to share any information. We are going to have more beer. It's basically a tech happy hour that runs once a month at a different bar somewhere in the Twin Cities. The next one is tomorrow at Summit Brewing in St. Paul.
Nice.
You can find a bunch of information at our website, beers.mn. I'm serious. We do not have a Slack, we do not have a Twitter, but we are at the bar. So.
All right.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks,
Let's see.
over there.
Go for it.
Hi, my name is Andy Tatum. I actually have two announcements.
Sure.
One is I just came off contract, so I am a Node, JavaScript, React developer looking for a new position. If you're interested in hiring me, that's announcement one. Announcement two, if you like the sound of my voice and you'd like to hear me talk some more, I will be presenting at the Node MN meetup next month. So got in two announcements in one. The Node MN announcement or meetup is scheduled for Tuesday, August 14th at Sports Engine in Northeast. See you guys there.
Anything?
I'm Jason Sue, and I'm looking for a position in Ruby on Rails, though I'm also getting into JavaScript as well. And in fact, my Ruby on Racetracks website, rubyonracetracks.com, is now written in Docusaurus, as are virtualboxtutorial.com and my and differentdockertutorial.com.
Nice. Go for it.
I'm Daniel Schultz-Jackson, and have been web developer of various forms since 2011. Took some time away through some injury and other life events, and I'm just looking to step back into web development, software development work. So part-time or full-time. So
Awesome. Welcome back.
thanks.
It's not IT, it's okay? Or
That's okay.
it's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you got?
So I've just moved here in the city 2 weeks back from New York. And wherever I go, I've been to a lot of cities in the US and all over the world. I do design projects where we can help people who are in need, let's say like homeless people or people who are not able to get jobs. So in Salt Lake City, I started a project where we would teach, I do DJing on the side, but there was a club which they were not using in the morning. So we would have computer like desktop set up there, so nobody can steal it. And we can teach them how to do basics of, let's say, Word, PowerPoint, or basic jobs. So if anybody is interested after the meeting, we can talk. It's completely not for profit. Nobody's making money out of here. It's just that we're going to give it back to the community, which is not getting it from anywhere else, and we can work on it. We can design a project and we can start working. If it is okay. If you guys are back, thanks.
Any other announcements? Right there.
Hi, my name is Robert. We are currently looking for people with Java and Python experience. We are part of Tron community. It's a cryptocurrency. I know when I say crypto, everyone's like, we were the 9th super representative for Tron. We are Tron's Tronics. I don't know if anybody knows anything about cryptocurrency or Tron, but we are part of that. We are in the top 27. So we are hiring right now. We are looking for scripts, GitHub. We have about 10 other groups that we are currently working with, and we are looking to make a payment system. And anybody has any experience like that or has any interest, we also have another project that we're keeping secret for a little while, probably until the end of the year. Anything like that you guys are interested, please let me know.
Cool. Thanks. Let's see. A couple super quick announcements from the organizers then, if nobody else has any other First thing you might have noticed, my blue lunch bag over there. That is because that is a spot where we're giving away some Midwest.js tickets. Midwest.js is a really cool conference that takes place right around these parts and is probably the premier JavaScript-related conference in this town. We partnered with them to offer 4 free tickets there. So we're going to do that drawing after Lightning Talks. So if you haven't got your name in there and are interested, that would be the place to go.
We'll have a short break in between.
Yes,
so
that too.
there will be an opportunity to stand up.
Yep.
Write your name down and put it in the bag.
This is true, this is true.
You should do that.
The other thing I was going to mention is, if any of you, this is your first event here, the first event with JavaScript event, or your first tech meetup ever too, that's cool. I just want to extend an invitation, a high five, a wave to you, and say hi to one of us organizers. We'd love to meet you. If this is your and tech meetup, cool. We can talk too. That's cool. Awesome. Thanks for coming back. That just about does it for announcements, I think.
All right. So our first lightning talk is Terry. I don't know what he's talking about.
Is this HTML5 3D rendering with Canvas?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm so
You
excited.
will tell us what it's going to be about.
Yes, absolutely. Here, I'll get you a fresh one. Here, this is just. Yeah, perfect. Oh, you've got HTML. Perfect. Yep, sounds good. Sorry about that. Apologize, this is getting a little wonky, isn't it? Okay. One more try. Perfect. So I'll give you the lavalier, and then your HDMI is right here.
Okay.
Thanks, Terry.
You bet.
Perfect. Oh, we'll just get that unhooked here. Sorry about that. Aha, that goes in this one. Perfect. Just double check some stuff real quick. Sorry.
Will this come any closer?
Let's see. So you've got a, that's
very good.
Best bet. I just need to do some stuff here real quick. Sorry.
Sure.
Just gotta clear some of my personal stuff out of the way. Was not intending on connecting this to the internet. Sorry. Perfect. Now we're good to go. Still want any unpleasant surprises. Perfect. There we go. There. Sorry, Terry.
That's all right.
Perfect.
Hi, I'm Terrence Schubring. I'm a game designer and JavaScript programmer. I'm learning startup entrepreneuring and product management. Today I'm going to talk about a location game. I'm doing an alpha release on the web at staircastle.com. First I want to show you my location database. This is a Google map with data coming out of a MySQL database. I've captured over 100 staircases in the Twin Cities, over 4,000 steps. Some of the really cool ones are Hidden Falls, for instance. That's an old cool staircase. There's a bunch of them down by the lakes. Minnehaha is cool. Out in Stillwater, there's some fantastic ones. Now, if we zoom in close, you'll see that each staircase location has actually 2 locations, 2 geolocations, one for the top of the stairs and one for the bottom of the stairs. Plus, there's some additional meta information, such as the neighborhood and locality, and the distance between the points. Now, this is just Google Maps here. This is a tool I use to manage locations on the database. Now I'll show you my tool I use to capture the locations. I just captured some stairs at the Twin Stadium. Okay, there we are. So this is the tool. I can enter the metadata like the title and the number of steps. The locations were taken when I took the photographs. So that's the geolocation. I do a reverse geocode with Google Maps to get the locality, city, state, etc. To create this location, say for the top, I could use this, so I could put in a different photograph here and submit that. I'll take that out. This is just for testing. So I submit this location here. Now this, the images go onto a canvas from the WebRTC. Submit. I think I might be challenged. I think I need to turn off my Wi-Fi. 1 second. Okay. Huh. So let's look at the app. So okay, this is reset, no biggie. I'll show you some screenshots first. So here you'll see there's a Google Map tile underneath some graphics of a castle. I've overlaid some geometry on top of the map while it was in the canvas stage before I brought it into 3.js. So what you're seeing here is HTML5 canvas for a lot of it, 3.js for the interactive part. Let me get into the actual app again here. So I'm using the Google Maps static API. So you just request an image with a bunch of parameters, and you just put an onload handler on it. Then it comes in with, you can choose what kind of map you want, how much detail. You give it a latitude, longitude, and zoom level. And from that, you can derive what the bounds in the latitude and longitude are. I put that in a canvas, and I can do some drawing on it. I can also do some point sampling. So you can see I added some trees, but the trees only show up where the map is green. This is some programmatic geometry of castles that represent different staircases. So if I select this staircase, there will be a weak leader, images of the top and bottom. I've got a little destruction animation I do sometimes too. So this is just an alpha. The back end is PHP and MySQL. Front end HTML5 canvas and 3.js, maps static API. It's ultimately going to need to be refactored in something like Unity, and then something like Gizzard for a back end. It doesn't need to be 100% in sync all the time. And I put this together quick just because I wanted to see how well I could get the location stuff to work. It's not super great. It's about, if you've played with location, it's about 5 meters at best. It's going to get a lot better soon. It's going to get down to 1 foot resolution on new phones. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity with augmented reality and not needing to use markers. But you just will simply use your latitude and longitude and place a 3D model or some interactive experience there. So I'm using the orientation here. There's a castle over there. I can filter different ways. I always use a responsive UI. So you'll see even in a really difficult aspect ratio, it calculates and displays everything correctly. Eventually there'll be rewards, branded merchandise. Challenges, that'll be, the game design is kind of like Pokemon, except there isn't going to be a bunch of battling in gyms, and you're not going to have to collect a bunch of stuff. It's simply going to be climbing stairs, and you'll get increasing rewards. So if you climb the same 100 stairs every week, you'll get 100 coins, then the next week you'll get 200, 300, and it'll just keep increasing until you skip a week. There will also be challenges where you challenge your friends to climb. And so if you both meet the challenge each week, you're rolling up more and more rewards that you can convert into whatever the rewards program turns out to be. Then it'll seem like if you keep rolling up more and more rewards with your friends, that's great. You're getting more and more back. The downside is people are risk averse. They're loss averse. They're not going to want to lose that increasing payout. Then they'd also be averse to wanting to cost their friends reward challenge. So it's a psychological game to create motivation. The market potential for it in corporate America, fitness programs are about an $8 billion industry domestically, $40 billion worldwide. That's about $750 a seat that corporations are spending, but they're getting back like 3 times returns for their health pools. So you can go to staircastle.com, look at the blog. You'll see a link to that list if you want to look at some of the staircases around the Twin Cities. You can register and begin playing right away. There's no rewards yet. It's in alpha, and I'm just looking for feedback on the interaction design so I can move forward in the startup process with it. That's what I have for that. Currently, I am looking for work as a product developer. Thank you very much.
So let's see, I think now
Are there any others?
Are there any other lightning talks? Nothing right now? That's okay. Come up to us and we'd love to chat if you're interested in giving a talk next week. Sorry, not next week, next month. Brains, what are they? I don't know. But that said, we are going to do our break real quick. So get your name in the bag over there if you would like a chance at winning a ticket to Nightwatch.js. We'll draw that in a couple minutes when we reconvene. So feel free to go get some more food, run to the restroom, talk to people, say hi to us. We'll reconvene in 5 minutes.
Okay, welcome back. Randall, do you want this?
Alright, so now that we've been sufficiently trolled by our own organizer, I think we're probably going to get to the part of the event where we're going to draw for the 4 winners of the Nightwatch.js conference tickets.
If you haven't written your name, well, no,
It's too late, sorry.
Sorry.
But for all of you who did, you have a slightly larger chance now that I, for example, did not put my name in there. So that's really
Yeah, I mean, that would be unfortunate though.
Yeah, so it makes things up a little bit. So Anna, go ahead and pick some names.
Drum roll. Adam Nix. Adam Nix. Actually, you can just sit down. We will be doing this virtually after the fact.
We'll email you.
All right, drum roll. Jide Onye Jide. You just won. Congratulations.
Alright. 2 more.
One more drum roll, I guess. Omar White.
Awesome.
Hey.
Congrats.
And one more. Drum roll. Zach. Yay! Zach Skalko. Skalko?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Round of applause.
So just to recap, if we drew your name or said your name, that means that you won tickets to this event to get you the deets on how you get those tickets, and it'll be magnificent. And you won some stuff. That's cool. Congrats, friends.
All right, round of applause.
If you have any questions, feel free to ask as we go along. So tonight we're going to be talking about Nightwatch.js and end-to-end testing. The code can be found. I have a repo out there with the most recent code changes. So a little about me. My name is Jeffrey Holland. This is my first time at JavaScript MN. I currently live down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but I'm up here to visit family for the summer and talked to someone and got recruited for the talk. I'm a senior software engineer over at Ackman & Dickinson. I've been working with them for about 4 years. I'm the lead developer on a large website hosting platform. We're currently hosting about 1,900 sites or more that are WordPress. I have extensive experience with JavaScript and Ruby, and I like to consider myself a code janitor and make sure that, when we leave, things are cleaner than we found them. So what you're going to learn tonight, we're going to talk about why you should test. We're going to get started, or I'm going to explain to you how to get started with Nightwatch.js. The nice thing about Nightwatch.js is it's one of the easiest testing frameworks that I've worked with. We were looking at a couple different frameworks, and when I set up Nightwatch.js, I was able to have probably about 20 tests up and running in an hour. And since then, documentation, everything has been really accessible. We're also going to learn about automating your testing. We're going to learn about page objects and commands and how those relate to Nightwatch. And then we're going to move into advanced Nightwatch.js topics like reporting, screenshots, running the tests in parallel, and connecting to external services like Sauce Labs. So why Nightwatch.js? It's built on proven technology. The base is Selenium. So you'll need JavaScript or Java and the JVM installed, but Selenium is a proven testing server. It's JavaScript. We're all here to either learn more or learn about JavaScript. As you work through it, it emphasizes organized and reusable code. There are many resources on the web. This is one of the most accessible for documentation I've seen, as well as finding your answers right away when you're searching online, like Stack Overflow. And it's actually pretty fun and easy to use. You don't run into a lot of hurdles with this one. You don't have to dive down too deep into Selenium to get a lot of the things working the way you want to, and so it's an enjoyable experience. So, why test? Nobody tests around here. You've got the wrong team. We believe in testing nothing. You may be thinking, well, that's just like your opinion, man. But you see what happens when you don't test? I'm sorry, I'm missing like all my notes here. Okay. So first what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how to actually set up Nightwatch. Like I said, it was super easy to get started and work with. Oops. So if we look at the package.json file, there's 3 dependencies to get going. We've got our WebDriver. So Nightwatch is really accessible because you can use Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Gecko, and Edge. So you can test on all sorts of browser platforms. The Nightwatch test suite is now the framework is at a 1.0 beta, so it's getting very close to that 1.0 release, but it's very stable and it's been working well for us. And then a Selenium server. So once you get those 3 dependencies installed, you're actually ready to go. Another thing that we created to make it more accessible for everyone is just a shortcut in NPM so that we can run NPM run Nightwatch. I'm sorry about this. For some reason, it lost connection to my Mac and I lost my notes. Okay. So now we're going to take a look at the configuration file. When people are working with configuration files for other test frameworks, they can get long, they can get really cumbersome. You have so many options with Nightwatch, but you don't have to fill them all out to get started. Nightwatch will either take a nightwatch.conf.js file or a nightwatch.json file. It'll load either one, and then you're going to bring in the Selenium server, and you're going to bring in your WebDriver. And then you've got all your options that are available. So we'll talk about custom commands, but those are just functions that you define to do what you want inside as one step of an automated test. The page objects, has anyone worked with page objects in testing at all? Unfamiliar to everyone? Okay. Page objects are just a section of the web page. So you could just take a table. That table is your page object, and then you can look inside just the table. So you're not working with the entire web page. Page objects will clean up your test code significantly. They're very nice to use and work with. And then you can set the source folders. So you can organize your code into multiple folders. I've got some commented out. We'll get to those in the examples. The next is the Selenium section. It's pretty straightforward. The only issue yes?
So does page objects path just need a selector?
Page objects path actually can, I believe it can be an array. And so,
selectors?
Yeah, the page objects won't be selectors. They'll actually be a folder filled with files. And we'll get into the page objects themselves so you can see how to access each of your page object files. So with Selenium, we bring in the path from the package, and we set the port. This is the only issue I've ever had anyone that worked through any code while doing this had issues with. You can change the port, and it fires up Selenium for you. So when we use start process true, we are not controlling the Selenium server Nightwatch is. Depending on your configuration, you might be running Selenium server locally and need to connect to an existing session. And then we give it the WebDriver. We repeat some of the settings. This is necessary to set up the tests. And we can set some globals. I set a wait time of 5 seconds. I'll show you how we're using that later. And then desired capabilities, when you dig into the documentation on this, desired capabilities let you specify all the options for the browser that you're going to use to test with. So here we've said that we're going to use Chrome and we're going to enable JavaScript. But there's more options that we can set. I've commented out headless so that you can run this in like a CI setting and you're not loading up the full browser, you're just running it headless. You can also set test workers. Test workers allow you to run your tests in parallel to cut down the time if you have the processes available. And then you can also set some other options. You can set a path if you're going to record screenshots, and you can build in a package that will take a screenshot of things like failed tests and where it happened. And you can also set up reporting. So if exporting reports from your test results is important, you can configure that there. So what makes great tests? They keep the bugs out of your beach community. They are good and they're thorough. They mark your error rate 0 or as close as possible. They help document your code. And they really tie the project together. So let's see some examples. So the first one, we're going to do a Google search. Now before we do this, there are other things that you can do with automated test suites that aren't testing. I know someone that years back had used an automated Selenium test to fill in their time card because they worked at a job where they had to fill out a time card, but it was always 8 hours a week. So they just go in and they'd fill out the time card. I also know people that are looking for hard to get items, maybe a new release of a console or something, and they'll run an automated test every once in a while to see if something's in stock, and then they'll shoot off a message or an email to themselves. So let's take a look at the first test. What we're going to do is we're going to do a Google search. And so I've got the Google example directory with our Google tests. This is going to use an object notation, and we're going to export these functions. So each file is a test to Nightwatch, and each of these functions is a step. So once a step fails, that test ends, and it'll move on to the next test file. But we can build on these steps to get through the page interactions that we want. So we can give it a human readable title, and it's a function that passes the browser object. So this is the browser object that comes from Selenium. And what we tell it to do is we're going to go to a URL, and I set that as a global for Google's homepage. And we're going to wait for an element to be visible. Here I just picked body, and I gave it 100 milliseconds. Wait for element visible is nice. You want to use this instead of pause, because wait for element visible, once it finds the element it's looking for, it moves on to the next test. So you don't have a lot of wasted time. And then we assert that an element is present. Now I already went into the Google homepage and found the text field to search. So this is the tag in the class. And we'll set a value, so we'll set JavaScript MN, and then we'll wait for another element to be visible. This is the search button. And we'll click it. And then we'll just pause so that we can actually see that the browser ran this test. No, what happened? It failed. Okay, let's try it again. Well, I've got Google. Well, this is a good time to show you how I would debug this test if it's not working. So I'll put in 50 seconds, and then we can just kill the test once we see what's going on with the page. Okay, so it looks like there's no more class on it. Google is always changing stuff. From the first time I gave this talk to the second, they changed the whole front page. All right. I'm not even that good at these selectors, so this might take a little while, everyone. Nope, it couldn't find it.
The name of the element TNK.
Oh yeah, you're right. Thank you. Okay. There we go. Okay. The only problem is I'm not seeing results. We should have gone to the results page and seen everything about JavaScript MN, but we'll try that in the next test. Yeah, this pause should have shown us some results. There we go. So it went through for us. It found the results, and in a few seconds it should disappear. So we got the browser in an automated fashion to go through and find something on the page. Now we're going to bring in page objects. So we've got these selectors here. I had to change the input twice. I had to change that button twice because we've got selectors all over the page. If we use page objects, it will be a little cleaner for us. So with the page objects, you can do it in two ways. You can either just give it a list of elements, or you can give it sections. And sections lets you break down each portion of the page and have it as kind of an all-encompassing. So you could do table dot and the specific row if you're trying to find that. So we give it a URL. And then we give it names for our elements. And the names have a selector. In later tests, we'll see it also supports XPath selectors. So you have other ways that you can search in the tests. And so now that we're using page objects, we load the page object. The browser has all of our page objects. And the function that we call for the page object matches the name of the file. And then we tell it to navigate. Since it has a URL, it knows where to go. And we wait for the element to be visible. And now we are using the page object syntax in Nightwatch. So inside a string, you put an @ before the page object. In this case, it's going to be the search box. And then we can set a value to that search box. We can wait for the search button to be visible, and we can click the search button. And it's going to work the exact same way once I fix it. And to be honest, whoever said button K, that looks really familiar to the first time I did this. So I think they changed it back. Or it's different for people that search in Minnesota. So the test ran, and it found the same thing. I'm going to add a pause real quick so we can see in the beginning. We'll go over that in a second. We saw it finish up its search. So the page objects are a lot cleaner. One thing that we need to note about page objects, and I'm glad it came up here, page objects do not have access to top-level browser functions, and one of those top-level browser functions is to tell it to pause. So we can't tell a page object to pause. We have to tell the browser to pause. So we can't chain anymore, but then we can chain off the Google object once we call it again.
So page objects are going to kind of, I guess, well, maybe retain state to some degree.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, they retain state because you're working with a piece of the page, and it is on the page. You're interacting with it, but it doesn't have access to what browser has. All right, so now we added the page objects and commands. But let's move on to a real-world example. I told you that we have over 1,900 sites that we're testing. What we want to do is when we make theme changes, we want to make sure that this isn't breaking for any of our sites. Now, that's tough to do. That's a lot of testing, but we would like to take a sample and have a certain percentage of confidence, 97, 98. You know, we want to be testing real-world sites, not just what we think should be tested. So, for those of you that aren't familiar with WordPress, and I can make this bigger, what we're going to be taking a look at in WordPress first is the menus. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be telling the browser, let's log in. Let's go through all these menus and make sure they're here. And let's hover over and make sure that all the submenus exist. So I can go in and I can verify that everything's there. To do that, we're going to add a command. So this is our first command. Commands you just call as functions. So when we get to the actual code example, you'll see this. And commands always work from this. You don't pass it a browser object. It has access to everything. So instead of using browser, we say this, and we give it a URL. And we're going to wait to see the login ID, that element. That means the login page is loaded. And you see now I've passed it a global's wait time. The web can sometimes be a little slow. We're going to give it 5 seconds, but hopefully it's milliseconds. Then we're going to set a value for the login. We're going to set a value for the password. We're going to click submit, and then we're going to wait for the admin main menu, which is the menu that I just showed you in WordPress. We have a whole bunch of page objects for it. So we have the main menu, and we give it a selector. So in the first one, we just had all the elements that we were looking for there. And we said, if you see this element, this is how we access it. Now we're limiting it down. So we're saying our menu section, this is its selector. We can give it custom commands, which is nice. You can have commands that are specific to a page object. And then we're going to start giving it elements. And so these are all the menu elements. This is going to be the top level menu that we see. Now, for the next part of the object, we're just going to see the post menus. So these are all the submenus. And you can see the selector we're using. And now media menus, on and on and on. So this is going to be for all those menus. Now, we're going to be bringing in a couple page objects. And the actual test steps would normally, you'd have to pull them in each time, which is too cumbersome. So we're going to set dashboard and menu section. Those are the two page objects that we're going to work with. We're going to set those to null. And before the test runs, we'll set those, because the before function has access to the browser object, so we can grab those. WordPress admin, that's the name of the page object we're using. We're going to call it dashboard, since we're on the dashboard page. And then we're going to grab the menu section. And you just call that with the .section and then the name of what you're looking for. You can see that we do a browser.login to admin. Like I said, that's our custom command, and that gives you access just by the function name at the browser level. And then we're going to assert that everything's visible. And then we're going to use move to element, which is a Selenium function, to actually move the mouse to cause the hover. And I set an offset of 5 pixels, X and Y, just to make sure it's not up in the edge and causes problems. I say not to use pause. In this case, through testing, wait for element visible wasn't working with this. So that's why we're doing that. And let me make a couple changes here. Why is this? Oops. There we go. And I'm going to turn off the old test and bring in the new. So it logged in and it's going through and it's validating that each menu was there. So that's pretty simple. But now we're going to move over to actually testing end-to-end the life of a page on WordPress. So here we've got several more sections. So we've got the page list. That's going to be the listing of pages on a WordPress site. So it's going to be this region in here. We've got the page editor. So this entire region. And you can see here we're using XPath selectors. So you just drop in the locate strategy and you're able to use XPath versus CSS selectors. And we've also got the page trash section. I'd have to move the page to the trash to see it. And we've just got a lot more loading of the page selectors. But we're able to use each page object as we go through it. So in this test, we're creating a page. We start with the menu, then we've got a page list, then we've got the editor. We tell it to publish, and then we assert that we see that new page and we're at the right URL. And so that goes on for all of them. We're editing a page, we're throwing it in the trash, and we're cleaning out the trash. So we tested all the functionality we want for the page section. So now you can imagine we're applying that to everything. And then we're applying it to new modules that we create, testing new plugins. Now this doesn't only have to work on the back end, but it's a good example for you to see some of the different things like pulling out, logging in. You know, once you verify that you can log in, you don't need to test it anymore. So just pull it out to the least amount of code that you need to get logged in. But you can use this for the front end, so you can check and make sure you can see CSS properties. So you can, if you need a certain amount of space, and you can see that it's there. You can make sure that you're on the right page, that certain alignments are happening, that text is visible, that you're able to click on things and they might become hidden. You know, you have everything that you have access to in the browser, you're probably going to have access to in Selenium. All right, so now we can talk about service integrations, running the tests in parallel, and CI. One thing that we do is we have a Docker container for this. The Docker container is what we have running in, or what will be running our actual tests in a CI environment, but we also have developers use the Docker container before they push the tests to the repo, so that we all have the same environment and we know they're going to work. But the best example that we can show right now is test workers. So if I turn all my tests on, actually, let's not turn all of them on. Let's run all the tests and see how long it takes. Usually comes out to about 45 to 50 seconds. All right, so that one was 28. Now, if we enable the test workers, we should see that come down dramatically by at least a third. $18. So the more processes you have that you can throw at it, the faster you can get these tests through. And then once you have more workers available on your CI environment, the more times that you can test these different sites or break up your test suite. Trying to check and see if there's anything else. Like I said, I got a little off because I lost all my notes. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, so that's about it. That's Nightwatch. Like I said, it's been really simple to work with, really useful, really powerful, and I know we're finding other ways that we can use it for, besides the sites project that we're working on. Any other questions? Yeah.
Have they been able to figure out how to get it to work without Selenium?
Yes. There's a project called Puppeteer that does not use Selenium, but it's limited to Chrome only. I have also seen documentation that you can actually run Nightwatch with just the WebDriver, but I have not tried to get that to work. Yep. Yes?
Any suggestions for something that you want to test that includes a two-factor auth?
Great question. I've heard that one before, and no, I don't. I've heard people talk about maybe an API or something that, you know, you're securely requesting, but no, not with two-factor auth. Yes?
Yeah, so actually, I guess I have kind of a related question, which is everything that you showed us happened within one browser. But I could also imagine end-to-end testing that I might want to run that either verified pop-ups or that verified cookie status on close of the browser and reopen. Can Nightwatch handle either multiple browser objects or instances?
That's a good question. I haven't dealt with that. I know that there is some access to like session and cookie information. I don't know about the multiple browser, but in the case that you're using if it's being moved to another tab, yes, you can get access to that because it is the browser. Yeah, so you can get access to that. That's one that we have figured out for someone that's using this somewhere else. Yeah.
How often are you guys creating these types of tests?
Not enough. Not often enough. There's someone in the back that knows how much I want to be writing tests. Right, Steve?
When do you use them for, like, I know we get some, you know, real example, but...
Ideally, what I want to be testing is as much of the functionality that we can determine needs to be tested. That's a very vague answer. But I want to get to that point. But the concrete steps that I want to take to get there, besides trying to do the obvious of stepping through. So I have our current test suite handles all of these functionalities on the side. So not the menus, but actually creating a user, toggling a plugin, you know, changing tool and setting options. We have another one that's just for our modules, where we actually go to the module, set it all up, go to the page where it's implemented, fill out the information, make sure it's there, things like that. But where we need to go is directly from our changelog sheet. You know, we need an option where we can add padding on the left and right of this button or this element. And I want to go in and I want to see that I can change it, and then I can go to that element on the front end and see that the padding I set is there. Things like that. So step by step, I want to go through what we've done and what we've logged as changes to make sure that they continue working. Yeah.
To maybe like follow up with that answer, and maybe to expand between when should you be using unit tests versus when should you be using end-to-end testing like we've got here. Would you say along the lines of something like, if it's considered a feature, like if this is something a high-level pointing pair manager would ask for, that's probably something that should have end-to-end tests associated with it, versus like all these different if conditionals inside of your backend code base. Probably should just be covered via unit tests and make sure your happy paths are covered via end-to-end.
Yeah, I've been developing for 7 years now, so I'm still in a transitionary phase where, you know, like something can catch my interest and I think it's a good thing to use. I mean, honestly, right now with these end-to-end tests, if you can see it, you should probably test that. If it's like you said, if it's a whole bunch of if statements, if they're displaying to the front end and you can trigger them, might as well just do it in the front end. You know, just do the end-to-end test because it's all there and you can see if it works. People can argue, that's fine. But, you know, right now that's my feeling is that, you know, if you've got calculations and math and you can't always get access to those through the front end directly, yeah, go ahead and unit test. But otherwise, if the user's seeing it, you probably want to end-to-end test and make sure that you're getting those results.
So what kind of, how do you manage versioning of different software? Are you testing different versions of the software?
No.
Is there any way to manage that you recommend? Or
no, we don't test.
One way and the latest version.
We are testing the latest version because our goal is to be moving everyone to the latest version. So right now, that's one of our problems is our theme version is all over the place because we can't confidently say that some of these updates are going to work, and we don't have the manpower for someone to go through and test, like manually. So that's what we want to get to. at that point, no, we won't be testing the old version, because once we release a new one, we want the confidence that we're actually trying to automatically release it. It's scary, but that's what we want to get to. Yeah?
A lot of times in WordPress, I've been saying, you know, I need to test if an email is getting generated after some form. Is there any integration capability with, you know, checking an email account and seeing if emails came in?
No. Well, I shouldn't say no. If you were to set up an account that wasn't two-factor auth that you could log into, you could.
Sure,
you could log in and log into the email and check that it's been sent. The other thing is Nightwatch is JavaScript. It's written in JavaScript and it's extensible. So you could find something that would allow some sort of hook like that. You could create somewhere that that email is sent to that then, you know, your test could ping that, you know, testing service and see that it's there. So there are options. And that's the nice thing is it is extensible. So, you know, kind of the things we went over, you're not locked in. And it's not just having to use page objects, commands, and things like that. Yeah.
So could I integrate it with a testing framework then that would, you know, do what we just described and then mock, use a sign-on mock or the mailer?
You could.
And do that?
Yes.
Is it compatible with
yes.
testing frameworks?
Yeah, you could. I don't know that it's specifically compatible with testing frameworks, but they talk about the extensibility of it. And I've seen projects that are Nightwatch,
Mocha.
You know, yeah, it's built on Mocha actually, yeah. So you do have the ability to hook into, say, unit testing or something with it too.
So this might have been covered already, but I didn't know if there was a tool that shows code coverage of your test, like you were talking about add an element. All of a sudden you no longer have that covered in your test. So.
We haven't hooked into anything like that, but I'm sure that even with the reporting you could do that too.
That seems like it would be helpful. You were talking about wanting to make sure you had everything tested. Well, John Smith added 4 new elements and you didn't know about it. It's not being tested unless you do it manually. But
yep.
If there's a tool that catches that, then
that's a good thing for us to look for. But I don't know the answer to that one. Yeah.
Just a morbid curiosity. What you mentioned that you had looked at other tools when considering Nightwatch. What were those other ones?
Behat. So with WordPress and the platform we're on, Behat Test. It's a PHP testing framework that was recommended. We unfortunately could never get it to work. It's not that Behat doesn't work. It's because of our hosting provider and the environment that we need to test against. It did not work for us. And so now that Reach Local is part of the Gannett network, Nightwatch was one of their 2 main testing frameworks. And so we gave that a shot and it was so easy to set up. We just kept going. You know, I can't tell you, I know that there are other test frameworks that are faster. This isn't the fastest one, but I think the developer productivity and the non-developer productivity of other people being able to use it is really a big win for us.
So I've been using Behat in testing for a Drupal site, and I was wondering if you could comment on why I should switch to Nighthawk or what.
If you have it working and you're happy, I think that's a good option.
If I have it working, I'm not happy.
Okay. I'm happy. I don't like the cucumber gherkin syntax. I remember when I learned it with you, Nick, I did not like it. You know, it was very difficult. The step definitions were very confusing. This seems a lot more straightforward. You know, when I'm developing, I always use selectors. Always. I always use selectors first, and then I move everything into page objects. I get it working, and then I start pulling out and neatening up what I've been working on. You know, it's just easy to use. You can see the results as it's happening. And the support. I mean, the amount of support out there versus what we're trying to search for with Behat it's awesome. You know, the getting started, it has all the configuration options in here, everything. And if you don't understand it, Google it. You'll find someone that's using it and can explain it for you. Same thing with their developer guide. It tells you how to work with everything that's in Nightwatch, and it has the full API reference. So you have, they use both the expect syntax and the assertions. We preferred assertions, that was just our choice. You have access to all the commands that are available, and then you have access to the whole WebDriver protocol. So you've got tons and tons of documentation. This is all at nightwatch.js.org if you want to take a look and get your software tested. Yeah?
I don't know how it works, I'm not a technical guy, but do they have like free trial?
It's just open source, so it's free. Yep, it's free. All right.
Any other questions? All right.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
So that's our show this evening. Thanks again to our Lightning Talk speaker, Terry. Can we get a round of applause for Terry? Another round of applause for our main speaker of the night, Jeff. Thanks again for coming out here. I have one quick thing. So Adam and Omar, if it's cool, can you come see Anna and I after I stop talking? We just want to make sure that I transcribe your email addresses correctly. That's not your handwriting, it's these 20-some-year-old eyes. They're not as good as they used to be. I swear. I know, it's such a disappointing phrase, right? But it's not you, it's seriously I can't read. Thanks to everyone for coming out tonight. We'll see you next month right here at this place.
If you do want to talk, let us know, like I said, and if you ate or drank anything, please take the receptacle that came in with you to the trash can. Thank you.
Awesome.
That's all.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.